Now, if you think I'm just being paranoid, at his birthday party in February, he choked on a grape. So that really freaked us out.
But these grapes were the size of freaking, like, bull balls. They were huge, man.
But from my nursing standpoint, I thought if I cut those in half,
when you have bull balls in your face that big, that's how big they were.
Well, he freaking choked on it.
A golf ball or anything, but like a bull ball. That's what you go to.
Exactly. In the face.
Joel saved his life.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, let's get going before the alcohol starts to wear off.
All right, sounds good. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky BBQ Show. I am your host, Noah Cheek. Hello, my friends. It has been a while. I have appreciated all of the folks that have reached out inquiring when new episodes of the Cheeky BBQ Show would be coming out. All of the support. It definitely was encouraging to make sure that I got back on the wagon to get this podcast back up and running. Definitely took a little bit of a hiatus. It obviously, it's no surprise. There's some weird, crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and timing was really weird. So, as you may or may not know, I went on a trip to Austin in the middle of February for my birthday. It was absolutely incredible. I've thought about doing a separate kind of shorter bonus podcast just to talk about Texas, but it was a lot of fun. We had some incredible barbecue. We hit up Valentina's. We hit up Terry Black's. We hit up Law Barbecue. We hit up Franklin's Barbecue. Of course, the brisket is for real. It is legit. It is the best brisket that I've ever had in my life. And, in that time when we were traveling, kind of a lot of this COVID stuff was just starting to kind of trickle into the economy and daily social life. I remember the guy sitting next to us on the plane had like a homemade mask on, and, he was definitely in the minority of people that were wearing masks at the time, which, fast forward to today is very different. But that was all going on. And then, kind of right when we got back, everything just hit the fan and this COVID stuff really took off, and it's been a little crazy. And, with that, I just haven't been able to dedicate the time to getting the podcast up and running like I've wanted to. So I appreciate everyone being really patient. And, again, the messages that I received as far as, asking when new episodes were going to come out and that kind of thing. I really appreciate the support. So thank you. I am really excited to jump back into some new episodes, and this is going to be a really fun one, I should say. First and foremost, if you haven't subscribed to That Reload podcast yet, please pause this podcast, jump over, subscribe to the Reload team. Today's episode is actually a part 2. So we recorded a part 1 where I was the guest on the Reload Rub. If you're not familiar, their rubs are amazing, but they also have a podcast. Joel, Stacey, Jeremy, and Matt Farr, who, if you've listened to my episodes previously, you've seen or you've heard Matt Farr on the podcast. And they've got a great podcast. They reached out, asked if we wanted to collaborate. So we did part 1 of this 2-part kind of podcast collab on their show. That aired on Tuesday, April 21st. And part 2 is dropping today, Wednesday, April 22nd. So if you haven't listened to part 1, I highly encourage you to jump over, subscribe, That Reload podcast, listen to part 1. They've got a great pod. It's really entertaining. I subscribe to them as well. And then jump over here, listen to part 2. We laugh throughout the entire episode. It was a lot of fun recording with this crew. They are great. And yeah, definitely, I've got a couple other episodes recorded, so hoping to, stick to more of that routine kind of weekly schedule that we were doing before all of this COVID, coronavirus mess hit our daily lives. But, without further ado, I'd love to jump into this show, part 2 of That Reload podcast and Cheeky BBQ Show collaboration. Thank you so much to Joel and Stacey and Matt and Jeremy for inviting me to come on, and then for letting me, turn the tables a little bit and interview them in this show. We had a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy the episode. And I know I already said this, but without further ado, let's get into the show. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky BBQ Show. I am super excited today because I have the Reload gang with me today. We've got Joel, Stacey, Matt, Jeremy. Gang, how are you?
We're good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So before we get too far in, we want to, of course, acknowledge the fact that this is part 2 of a 2-part episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1 on That Reload podcast, you need to hit pause on this. You need to jump over. You need to subscribe, and you need to listen to part 1, and then come back here and hit play. And then I guess I should have clarified this too, but Spotify, Apple, people can find That Reload podcast everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Spotify, iTunes, and all the other major podcast platforms.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So we had a really fun time recording part 1, and all that's happened is people have consumed more alcohol as we lead into part 2, which I think will be even more fun. So to start things off, let's just kind of, hopefully they listened to part 1, but if they didn't, let's just do maybe quick kind of introductions, who you guys are, what you're all about, kind of 30, 45 second introduction. Joel, let's start with you.
All right. So my name is Joel. I am the part owner of Reload Rub and Seasoning. I used to go as Home Cooking Hunter on Instagram, but as of this year, I have transferred over. How do you say that? What I'm now That Reload.
You're trans.
I'm trans.
You transitioned.
Transition, did you?
Tranny.
Hang out me long enough. It's I'm only putting shit. So I don't know if it's a cooking podcast. But no. So I now go as That Reload Live. Shut up, Jared.
You're not making it any better.
I'm not at all. So I identify.
This is officially designated as an explicit podcast now. We're 30 seconds into it. So.
My bad. So, that's who I am. I'm an outdoorsman. I love to hunt, like to fish, be outside, love to cook. That's kind of, hence why me and my wife started our own seasoning company. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm about, hunting, fishing, loving every day. # Lou Brian.
Love it. Yeah. Stacey, go ahead.
All right, so I'm Stacey. I'm Joel's wife. As you can tell, I love to bust his
Balls.
Balls. But I'm actually co-owner with Joel of Reload Rub and Seasoning. But that's not my only job. I'm actually a registered nurse. I do pediatrics. I've done that for the past 14 years. We both live here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We love to cook, love barbecuing. We love the outdoors. Like he said, he loves to hunt. I don't hunt. I like to fish, kayak, camp, hike, you name it. And we love to podcast, as you can tell. So we're really glad to be on today.
Right on.
Sure. So I'm Matt. I'm the producer and engineer for That Reload podcast. So I don't know if you're going to cut me out or not, all of my vocals, but technically I think I would be your second return guest on the Cheeky BBQ Show. So I've previously been on just for a one-on-one episode. And then, of course, Aaron's been on before, too. He got that, Aaron from TBSQ. You got the designation of first return guest. So I'm proudly wearing the title of second return guest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey,
Hey guys, I'm Jeremy Whitelaw. I am the fourth wheel on the That Reload podcast. They keep me around because I cook for them, and that's mostly what I'm doing. I'm the resident in-house chef for them, so they can get more drunk, while they're podcasting. But I enjoy cooking, and that's what I do.
It's really just we have Jeremy on so he can cook for us and then explain the things he did to us on air while we're eating. That's the whole purpose of Jeremy on the show.
He gets really excited about a dish he cooks, and then we're like, Jeremy, tell us all about this. No.
Well, our audience gets to listen to them.
Yeah.
He hates
That's the best part of the show.
That's the worst part of the show.
Well, it's a little intimidating. We're 4-on-1 here. I'm just a one-man show. We've got the power couple here. We've got the private chef.
About me and Matt, right? Power couple.
You got the private chef for the podcast. You even got a producer and an engineer. I mean, here I have to cook for myself. I have to produce myself. I have to edit, engineer everything myself. I got to get on this co-host bandwagon here.
Just start a seasoning company and sling some rubs, some spices.
I'm gonna tell you, we actually talk about that a lot. When we see how much work goes into our weekly podcast, we all have our roles. We mention you. We're like, he's got a lot on his plate,
Yeah.
and for you to be able to produce and put out the content that you do is super admirable because I know it's so tough.
Yeah, I mean, we started the Reload podcast. What was it, back last August or something like that? And it kind of fell off a little bit because of what you're just talking about, like how much you have to, the dedication you have to have to it. So when we brought Matt and Jeremy on to the podcast, it was like just perfect fit because, they filled in the holes and the gaps that we needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to jump into that more, absolutely. But I thought kind of a fun place to start here is I want to hear how Joel and Stacey met.
Well, so I was down in a dark alley and I wanted to spend some money. No,
And Stacey sold fireworks. That's like where she was buying fireworks for her in that alleyway.
That's what it was. It was Boomsday. So
Did you say Boobs Day?
It was kind of, but anyways, so we met on online dating service called Match.com.
Okay.
One of those. We tell a story to people who ever ask it is when I was on there because I was sick of trying to meet somebody in the bar or out. I was ready to commit to someone, get married, have kids, all that jazz, and I found her and I messaged her and then she never responded. And like 2 weeks after I messaged her, I had like 3 days left of my account. I'm like, forget this jazz. This was dumb because I had a bunch of catfishes and people that were who they said they were on there and stuff. And I was over it. And she messaged me back and I was telling her all the time, you about missed out on all this.
Well, that would have been terrible.
Yeah. You see?
I'm just kidding. I love him very, very much.
Very
but
broken up.
yeah.
Stacey,
Yeah,
what was your first perspective or opinion of Joel when you guys first met?
So when he first messaged me, he's a very attractive guy on there. I initially, any female that goes on any dating website, especially nowadays, this happened back in 2009 for us. So it was slightly fresh. Not everybody was saturated in the online dating, but good looking guy. And I was messaged a lot. So there was a lot of weeding out of people that just, I don't know, didn't seem serious. And he was one of those because he asked me to go out for a drink and had some really Joel's personality, as we all know him. He was like, "Oh, you have the most beautiful face faux show. I want to take you out for a drink or whatever." I'm thinking, all right, well, he just wants to, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, take me out for a drink or finally,
She couldn't resist, man, because back then I had hair, and I was, like she said, I was pretty damn good looking. Not anymore, but then
you
I
are.
was.
No, so the more we talked, we're just soulmates. I mean, we really are. I mean, just to be honest, he's my best friend, and we got to know each other, laughed, couldn't stop laughing. I mean, our first date, he was himself, making me do crazy random things, and we were in this Japanese restaurant, and it was really dead in there, and we're just cackling like so loud, like we're doing right now on this podcast. So
yeah, that's when you rapped the entire song of Salt and Pepper.
Probably.
In the car.
Probably. So, anyways, the rest is history, and now we're about to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary.
10 years. Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
So you are at the Japanese restaurant. You're rapping, Salt and Pepper. You're laughing. Everything's good. How do you transition from all of that to starting Reload, starting a rub company? How did that come about?
So I'm actually from New York, and not that people from New York aren't into the country, because actually where I'm from, people love to hunt and fish and all of that. Joel is an avid hunter, and I had never ate wild game. I had never shot a gun before meeting him. So he was super, super passionate about hunting, and I tried wild game for the first time with him, and the way he was preparing it was way better than what I had heard it was supposed to taste like. A lot of people said it tasted gamey or whatnot. And working at the hospital, I worked with tons and tons of women, and they would say, "Oh no, I would never eat that because it tastes disgusting." So I'd start bringing it in and whatnot. Long story short, I kind of encouraged him because of his charisma, and I don't know, he's just really great in front of a camera. I said, we need to start putting out some YouTube videos or start an Instagram where we can share all of these recipes and kind of change the minds of people. Like, that wild game does not have to be gross. Like, you don't have to have chili. You don't have to have, bacon wrapped back straps. There's so many different versatile things that you can make with it. Started a YouTube channel. And kind of one thing led to another. If you want to hear the real nitty gritty story about what happened as to what led us to the seasoning business.
Also, that's where the Home Cooking Hunter was born. And so, I had a YouTube channel called Home Cooking Hunter. Okay. And Instagram, social media, all that jazz. And we just did funny videos, how-to videos. People, were really attracted to them because of how it was we made it funny and fun to watch.
Super poor quality.
And but they were good recipes that were easy to follow.
And was this like cooking wild game based? Okay.
That's all it was. It was a silly little wild game cooking show. And so, we started from that. I would get, scent spices and stuff. And one day she was like, we should make our own seasoning. Like, we should just make it just for fun, And I'm like, I don't want to do that, because we got bottles of free stuff that,
other companies were sending
and everything. But she talked me into it, and we sat in the kitchen and we were, slinging back some beers and pouring stuff in bowls and just, that's good. And try to stress. And finally we landed on this one blend, and we sat, which
is now fully loaded.
Yeah, but we sat on that for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, just passing it out to friends and family and whatnot.
And over time, coworkers, friends, family just kept requesting it. We were buying bulk seasonings, and making it from in the Amish country. They have big tubs of the seasonings, and we would make it. And finally, through an unfortunate situation that kind of happened, we talk about it in our first episode 1 of our podcast. Long story, an unfortunate situation that happened with us kind of led us to decide, hey, let's, and then actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jerky Gold Marinade.
Yeah.
We're buddies with the owner, and we sent some to him just for him to try, and he was like, "You're stupid if you don't put this out on the market."
Yeah.
He said, "You got to do it." So he kind of held our hand, walked us through the process, and said, this is what you need to do and what you need to get, and then Reload was created.
Well, so I'm a firm believer that God leads us down roads sometimes that we're not comfortable going down, and only to open up, other roads for you that he wants you to walk down. And I think, the situation that we went through prior to starting this company that kind of springboarded us to do this, as unfortunate as that was for us, I don't know if this would have happened if not for that situation. And so we, once we sent that stuff off to our buddy Jerky Gill, because we couldn't keep up with our friends and family with this blend we were sending out. People were begging for it all the time, and we just got to the point also where we're making so much of this stuff and for free.
Us a lot of money.
We're like, well, maybe we really do have something. If all of our friends and our family and their friends, people were saying, can you make some of this for me so I can give it out as Christmas gifts? And we put it in a little glass container with a little pop top on it. And so that kind of was like, maybe we do have something. And of course, we prayed a lot about it and before we decided to do it. And then, felt like it was something we needed to do. It felt like it was the right thing to do. And we jumped in, man, head first.
I love that. When you guys were sitting in your kitchen with, tubs of bulk spices from the Amish, and you're like, is it just like pure trial and error? Like, let's just try a little bit of this, and you're just like, what, making notes and making adjustments, or like how does that work?
So this was pre-coronavirus, so we were licking our fingers and dipping it into the bowls and taste testing. That one needs a little more salt, or this one needs a little bit more of this. And so we just, like you said, trial and error. We knew what kind of seasoning we wanted out of it. We knew what type of flavor profiles that we liked, and just kind of messed around with the ratios.
The beautiful thing about our partnership is that both of us, we both have good palates, but she's got a really good, sense for the small nuances in things. And she's also stupid smart. I'm proud you're a nurse, honey. But she should have been like a freaking engineer or an architect or something that like was with math, because she's really good at math. So we would get like our little blend. We'd measure that little bit and how much we put in there. And then she'd compound it up. We'd have a big old freaking, tub of this stuff.
Yeah.
Or what. But everything we do, every blend we have, we've sat in that daggum kitchen and we've broke it down.
That's so cool. So, how long were you like dishing this out to family and friends for, and then you have a conversation with your buddy from Jerky Gold, like from the point when you started just throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks in the kitchen to actually, having a bottle of your rub in your hand? Like, how long did that take, and what was that full process like?
So, when we talk about how Matt from Jerky Gold kind of walked us through it, we never approached him about doing this. He stuck us under the water with it, like kept pushing us towards the ledge, pushing us and pushing us. We did not want to make this a product, but we're very thankful for him for, giving us that confidence to jump out there and do that. But I would say we're probably making it for, because Jace was a baby.
Yeah.
We, for a good 3 or 4 years before we even started even thinking about that idea. And, it would seem like it's such a simple process, but there's so many things that go into creating a company and licenses and certifications. And
I'd say it's a good 6-7 months of legwork before we could actually say our bottles for sale.
Yeah. There's a lot of upfront things, and, but we just pushed on until it actually became, a product.
We don't have any investors in our company. We've done all this, with off the, our own backs. And so I think that's, for some other companies, it may be a shorter term of getting something out the market, but for us, it was, we are new to this, so we're going to do this right. And we want it to be good. We're not just going to throw something out there to throw it out there. So, and especially with her, and the guys know this, is she has a hard time making up her mind on things. So we had to break everything down to the fraction of what it is before we could move on. But yeah. So, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just gonna say, like, coming up with the I guess, I don't know, formula, I guess, ingredients. I mean, that's one thing, but I mean, the logo looks incredible. The packaging looks incredible. All of that. I mean, how did you guys figure all that part out of it too? I mean, it's one thing to just come up with a spice rub that tastes really good, but it's another thing to market it, bottle it. I mean, like I said, come up with all the design work that's on here. Like, how did all that happen?
It's like pulling teeth, man. It's a lot of getting a piece of paper and a pencil and drawing all these crappy drawings and going, what do you think of this? You know, and then like saying, okay, here's the idea, the premise. It took a lot of, heck, man, just getting the name Reload, finding the name was hard. We had like names like Dusty Mustache and Fireside Seasonings, and it took us forever just to figure out, what we wanted to name this thing, because we wanted the name to be right. And, and I can tell you, we told ourselves when we were deciding to have, start this company, that we were going to only do this if God had this company's back, because I got a job, she's got a job, we got kids. So this is a big undertaking to take this on, and if we were going to do this, it was going to be because there was purpose behind it. And so we were going through all these different names and figuring all this out, yada yada. And then we were sitting on a couch, and the name Reload popped in my head, and I said it. She looked at me. We went back and forth for a little bit, thinking, okay, well, is there anything else? But no, this is it. This is the name. And
we both loved it. And
thank God for that, because it fits so well with who we are as a company. Is, the name Reload is more than just, tactical reloading a gun, that kind of things. Or, we want people to get out there and reload themselves, find out what it is that fills you up and makes you happy, and make time for that. We want people to sit around the dinner table with their wife and their kids and talk and break bread and reload in that fashion. And there's been so many things throughout history, that big events that have been decided by sitting around a dinner table and breaking bread. And what better way to do that was with your family? So that's kind of our mission statement, is to get out there and give back and encourage people to do the same.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah, so we wanted something that embodied like the tactical lifestyle, because our flavors, as you can tell, are fully loaded, double action, high caliber, pack and heat, and magnum. So they're all like tactical names, but we wanted something that embodied our mission, like he said, the reloading into others, and that quality time and fellowship over breaking bread. So it just kind of is a double meaning for us.
And when did the first bottle come out? Like, when was the first one out, ready for sale?
July 2017.
July 2017. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're heading up on our 3-year anniversary.
Coming up quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
so
we
started
cool.
out with one blend, and now we have eased into 5 right now.
That's right. We
some other things in the pipeline.
We launched with one flavor. Well, we're here.
How did you come up with the name Fully Loaded for the first one? And let me ask, did the name come first, or did you come up with the formula first?
It used to be called Home Cooking Hunter's Redneck Rub, so the name did not come first.
People would say, we need some more of your redneck rub.
Yeah.
Or your hillbilly rub.
So we came up with the name Fully Loaded because we discovered that this blend was literally good on everything, whether that's putting on protein, any protein. If you can even put it, make a salad dressing out of it, put it in soups. It is a legit all-purpose blend, and then what better name than Fully Loaded? It's fully loaded with everything you need to put on any food you want, practically.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so I wanna hit pause on Reload for a second, and I want to jump to Jeremy. So we'll kind of do this, and then we'll tie it all together a little bit here. So, Jeremy, tell me about like your cooking journey. Like, where did this all start? I mean, they refer to you as like the bougie chef of the podcast, right? Like, how did you earn that title? Like, where did cooking start for you?
So it was a cool spring evening of 1989, and no, I was messing with you. So grew up cooking, all that jazz. Probably similar to everyone else's story, hanging out with grandma and mom in the kitchen, doing all that, and moving on from there, and then getting older and just discovering a passion for that. And as I've gotten into Instagram, honing that passion in the court of public opinion. So that's been fun. And then hooking up with Joel and Stacey a few years ago and getting in with them. How long have we been working together, you guys?
It's been 2 years now, right?
Close to.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I've been.
I think so. You don't have it written in your journal?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me run and grab my dream journal real quick.
Your diary.
Yeah, I keep it under my wife's side of the bed because I don't like to sleep on top of it. Did you get that one, Cheek?
Yeah.
That's deep cuts in the office.
I didn't
Yeah.
get it.
Okay, don't worry about it. It's not for everybody. Yeah. So we've been working together for a few years and stuff, and we talked about this on the last podcast a little bit too. And then my journey through food has brought me into photography and all that other stuff, and enjoying getting into that whole world of exploring food in all those different ways.
What made you decide to start your Instagram account?
I did not start my Instagram account. I love to cook. My wife and I got married in 2016, and I do all the cooking in our house pretty much. And I was always shooting photos of my food to my sister up in New York, and hey, I made this tonight, did this, that, whatever. And she's like, here, I'm gonna make you an Instagram account. You can just put photos on there. It'll be private, and that way you don't have to text them to me. Like you can just put it on there. Like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. I don't do any social media stuff, so that'd be fun. And I did that for a few months and stuff, and got researching stuff more. I'm like, oh, this Instagram thing is like, there's like a lot going on there. And we're hanging out. I think she came and visited for like Mother's Day or something. I was like, I'm thinking about like taking my account public. Like, what do you think? Like, I think I have something I could share with people, something that's interesting. I can add my own opinions and stuff. And she was like, oh, that's a good idea. I look down at my phone. All of a sudden I go from like 29 followers to like 100 followers. I'm like, what happened? She's like, oh, I made your account public. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess we're doing this thing. And then I want to say that was Mother's Day of like 2 years ago. So it's been almost 2 years that I've been on like publicly on Instagram, going on that journey.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you had a social media manager from the beginning, I guess, then, huh?
Yeah. I surrounded myself with a team. That's why I chose Reload to be a representative of my brand. And I got Matt Farah as my producer, and my photographic guide and manager.
This is 2 podcasts in a row where you've admitted that I made you who you are today. I love
This is 2 podcasts in a row that I've admitted that I've made you do a bunch of work for me for free.
So, where I guess 2 questions. Like, where did the love of photography come from, and does that extend beyond just food photography? And let's start there. Yeah, talk to me about that.
So I started doing Instagram and being around people like Matt and like seeing accounts like your own who just take these incredible photos of food, and I'm taking photos on my iPhone. I'm like, how do I get better? Whenever I do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I don't want to, do anything subpar. So I started researching stuff, and I got my first camera. It was a Father's Day present last year to myself. And so I did a bunch of research, talked to Matt, got my first Sony camera. And before that, my experience with photography, my sister does some photography up in New York and stuff. So I've helped her with some shoots and different things like that. So I've seen it before. I kind of have an understanding of it. Been playing with phone photography for, over a year, stepped into getting a real camera, not anything cheap like a Canon camera or anything, but like a real Sony camera. And so as I jumped into that, I love technical things. And as you talked about in the last podcast, lighting and learning all that stuff, I'm steamrolling over this.
I can't wait to edit all of that out.
We all know you don't have an editor. Anyways. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Photography. It's
Which Sony did you get?
I shoot on the A6400.
Okay. And
I
then
went with the APS-C camera because most food photography.
Because you're cheap.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So unlike Matt, I have children and stuff. I can't buy 5 or 6 cameras at a time.
Living that dink life.
Dink.
Cheeky, have you heard of what a dink is?
Oh yeah, I'm aware of a dink. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt is the epitome of a dink.
Yeah.
Cheeky should be Team Matt here because Cheeky's also a dink.
Yeah, kinda. See, I'm not married yet, so technically I don't think I meet the criteria of a dink. But we don't have kids, so
Pseudo.
yeah.
And he's a dink in Portland, so it's a little different.
Yeah, that's true. Cost of living and such.
Yeah.
But I shoot on the A6400 APS-C sensor because most food photography is macro, ish. So you really want to be able to zoom in closer, which APS-C will give you 50% zoom over a full frame camera, which I really liked. And it was way cheaper, so that was good.
Talk to me about your lighting setup. We'll nerd out really, really quickly because we don't have that much time to deep dive into this. But
yeah.
What's your lighting setup like?
So I shoot with a constant light setup usually. I have a newer panel light that I set up, and using bounce cards and stuff. I like to shoot off of a tripod usually so that I can lower my my shutter speed really low, keep my ISO at 100, and then play with my aperture as needed. I just got the 18 to 105 f4 a few months ago, so I've been playing with that lens a lot and really liking it, being able to keep f4 at a Matt.
Before we go too far, I just want to mention, I think as a friend of both of you guys, I want to point out that you both have a mutual love of Andrew Scrivani, right?
Oh yes.
Yes. You mentioned his book on your podcast, and I got that immediately afterwards, and that is a really good book. He goes into lighting a lot and just different setups, and it's mostly based around food, which you had asked before if I shoot anything else, and I don't. I shoot food. I don't like things that move or talk back to me when I'm shooting them. And the saying in our house is the camera always eats first, so
I love that.
That's
I love
a good
that.
saying. I like that.
You haven't heard that before?
No.
No.
Yeah, Andrew Scrivani, right? Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. So Joel, these are called numbers, and they have representations on different.
Oh, thank you.
So, quick little side note on Scrivani. Actually, I texted Matt this the other day. He was doing an Instagram live, and I jumped on it, and he accepted. He actually asked me to jump on the live with him, so I did that. And I don't jump on live very often, and I said, "Man, I've honestly been trying to sum up the courage to ask you to come on the podcast." And he was like, "Hey, you just came on my live, so now I need to go on yours." I was like, "All right." Done.
Oh, that's what's up, man.
Go.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
we'll I haven't reached out
Newsflash.
to him about it yet, but yeah, I'm pretty stoked about foot in the door on that one.
He's a super cool dude. For people who don't know or listening, he is a staff photographer with the New York Times and a bunch of huge magazines. Super awesome dude. Amazing photography book. It's what's the name of the book?
That Photo Makes Me Hungry.
That Photo Makes Me Hungry. Yeah.
We talked about that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
an incredible book, and he's a super engaging guy on Instagram. He has a great account. I think he follows both of us. He's always jumping on doing stuff. Yeah. Great
Yeah, the
guy.
whole quarantine thing, he started his quote unquote work from home cafe. So he's like cooking and photographing every day and showing everything. So yeah, it was kind of cool. He gave a shout out to the podcast actually. Like I didn't even bring it up. He brought it up. Oh, tell him about your podcast. So yeah, that was a
Nice.
cool moment for me personally. But
Yeah, man.
Cool dude.
That's weird. I
Hmm.
follow him. I don't even know who this guy is.
He's awesome. He
Oh,
shoots some
think
great
all
Yeah.
pictures.
I must have
Yeah.
liked his pictures or something.
Yeah.
Those pictures of all this guy.
Anyway,
So
Actually, I just did my taxes last night, and I wrote his book off as an expense.
Hell yeah, you did.
I need to own my own business.
There you go. So let me jump over to Matt really quick. And for anyone that's listened to the podcast for a while, you should be familiar with Matt. He's been on a previous episode. But,
I'm back.
Matt, like really quickly, like give me the kind of the download. You know who you are, what you cook on, kind of how you got involved in cooking and that kind of thing.
Sure. So I'm Matt Farr. I'm on Instagram at Farbecue. So as Cheeky so gracefully pointed out, and the first time I was on his podcast, I cook on a little bit of everything. He made me painfully go through every grill I've ever owned or currently own, and it was a little bit of an embarrassing time for me. But right now I'm currently cooking on a pellet grill, a Primo ceramic grill, a Camp Chef flat top grill, and I've got a pizza oven that I'm trying to master this year, a Uni pizza oven. So a little bit of everything. I know my account's called Farbecue, but I really, Jeremy and I have kind of linked up over this bread thing that we've been dealing with for the past couple of years. And then obviously we're both huge fans of Reload. And Jeremy and I actually met through Reload. We both had an opportunity to join the Reload squad when it was first starting up. And we've become, I mean, I would suggest that Joel, Stacey, and Jeremy are some of my best friends at this point. So it's been a huge opportunity for me.
I love you so much.
Right on.
We're acquaintances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love you too, man.
I love you, bro. You're good.
So let me come full circle here. This is like a hour-long TV show here, right? It's like all the pieces of the puzzle are moving individually. Now we're going to try to connect them a little bit. So back to Joel and Stacey. What made you guys decide to start a podcast?
I love to hear myself talk. So
That's him.
if you haven't guessed. No, man, it's like going with the Reload theme, okay? We, like I said before, we wanted to be more than just a seasoning company, and we felt a podcast like this was a good way to get the message out to people, not only just with talking about food, but be talking about other people's experiences, and that whether it's something bad that happened to somebody or something triumphant, that we could have a good time, laugh, and tell these stories, and hopefully, affect somebody in the midst of it, and also just have a hell of a good time.
Yeah, so we,
doing it.
So like he said, we like to have guests on at times that have the triumphant stories or inspirational stories. But number one, we want to have a good time. We want to make people laugh. We want to provide value. So in most of our episodes, probably all of them, at some point we either teach you something, share a recipe, share behind the scenes things between, all four of our Instagrams and, our walk in life. So providing content and quality and value, having the good time, and adventurous type things.
Or just talking about Tiger King, right?
Or, that lightheartedness, definitely bringing the laughs.
Laughter is a staple for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the podcast platform? Like, what made you drawn to that? Because like you started with YouTube, and you're on other social media and that and whatnot. Like, what made you attracted to podcasting as a medium?
Well, so if you look at, so when I was doing videos and whatnot, there's a whole nother animal to shooting a video and editing that audio and editing that video stuff. And so that's a great way to get a message out there. It is, but to have an audio track that you can go in there. We can come on here right now. We're all just talking, being ourselves. There's no real script to this, and to be able to just throw that on a file, chop it up minimally if you have to, and throw it out there. We felt like that was a great way, efficiently, to do it. As
well as, when we have T, El Dente Diva from New Jersey, or we have Noah Cheek from Portland, Oregon, a podcast is an awesome avenue that we can get other people to hop on with us, whereas like a YouTube video, we don't have that option.
And I don't know if the relationship with these two guys are here with Jeremy and Matt. I mean, like it's been such a blessing to have them a part of this podcast because, we before the whole coronavirus thing hit, we were getting together on the reg, cooking, having some beverages, and fellowshipping and laughing. And
It was like our favorite times.
I looked forward to those days, more than any other day that I was going around and having, And if we weren't doing the podcast, we'd all still be good friends. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if we'd be, this good of friends.
It gives us a reason to get together, and it's like we have to put it on the calendar because we have to put this out, but it's just an excuse to get together and have a good time.
It's a good way to make them hang out with us.
Now the truth comes out.
It's like a bribe.
So tell me about what that evolution was like. Like, how did Jeremy and Matt become part of the show and like the format change and everything?
So you guys kind of had your own podcast, Joel and Stacey, before me and Matt kind of came in. But then last year, we started competing together, the four of us, as like a competition barbecue team together. And we did that was the first time I met you, Matt, was at the Egg Fest in Chattanooga. And then we did that again in 19. And then last year we did the Big Kahuna Wing Fest in Knoxville. And of course, we won the whole thing.
Worth mentioning, we've won everything we've ever entered.
Wow.
We've never lost anything ever. But
Don't make me nervous.
we started getting together and doing practice cooks for those competitions, and then we're like, hey, we might as well record like episodes. So Matt and I had our own little special segment on it. At that time, what was the previous name? That Reload Life podcast?
Yeah, that Reload Life, and we were calling the episode the Barbecue Roundtable.
We were Barbecue Roundtable, and then eventually that just evolved into Matt and I becoming co-hosts onto the show.
Yeah,
Joel
like
and
our
Stacey were
energy.
just like, you guys are the show is so much better when you guys are here. We just need you to be on it every episode.
They begged us. Joel was on his knees crying, saying, please, come back to the podcast.
I had liquor in one hand, vape in the other, going, Jeremy, please come on here
And bring some bread.
and bring some more sourdough.
So how did you guys get, like, what was the initial conversation like of like, hey, let's all get together and compete at Eggfest or whichever the first event was? Like, how did that start?
Matt, you take this one, brother.
Yeah, so it was the 2018 Egg Fest, and Julie, my wife, and I had just agreed to enter as barbecue. Like, it was just going to be, barbecue going to represent. And so the two of us put together these dishes using Reload Rub, because at that point I was already part of like the Reload ambassador program, the Reload Squad. And so I was like, I'm going to use this stuff. It's good. I don't think a lot of people have heard of it, especially around here yet. Like, our local Ace Hardware was carrying it, but it wasn't nearly as big then as it is now. So I came up with a couple of dishes. It was a pulled pork banh mi slider, and then that used double action on the pulled pork.
Was that
Yep.
pretty good, Stacey?
My
Yeah,
gosh,
so good. And then the second dish that we put together was it was a pack and heat pimento beer cheese with a pork rind and a sweet pulled pork, which was the same pulled pork for both dishes.
Oh my.
And when we put those together, I thought it was just going to be me and Julie trying to do the whole thing. And then there was this separate conversation happening between Harold, who we've talked about. He's a store manager for our local Ace Hardware. Harold was working with Joel and Stacey about potentially coming down and doing like a larger demonstration at this Egg Fest, which was going to be about ribs or something. I don't even remember.
Yep.
And so the morning of Egg Fest, I met Joel, Stacey, and Jeremy for the first time. We're thinking that this was just going to be me. And they're like, hey, is it all right if we come hang out in your booth with you? We would like to help you. We don't want to seem like it's stepping on your toes or anything, but if there's anything we can do to help, please just order us around. And I was like, absolutely, because we're totally unprepared. Like, we had the dish ready and we had everything cooked, but there was no way we were prepared to serve the masses of people that were coming in.
Not to mention that, so Harold wanted me to teach a class on,
pork belly burnt ends.
pork belly burnt ends and ribs. And so I wasn't going to tell him no. And then I decided I was going to con Jeremy into coming down and doing it with me. More or less, I was going to con Jeremy. And go ahead, Jeremy. You can say it.
It was like 3 days before the event. He calls me up and he's like, hey, you want to teach a class on pork belly burnt ends? I'm like, sure, why not? Let's do it, man.
And then they provide the meat.
Yeah, they provide the meat. We get there, and he has like a brisket flat to make pork belly burn ends, and we're like, that's not gonna work. We have like 4 hours to make these things. Like, that's not a thing. So we just made ribs.
So we did ribs, but it was funny, man, because we went down that first competition and we're like, hey Matt, can we put some reload swag up? And he was like, yeah, sure. We're like,
this little tiny banner.
this little tiny ass banner.
We've joked about it a lot. It was like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that said reload on it. It was hanging up above
That was our banner.
Yeah. Wasn't wide enough to hang on anything, but hey, dude,
We won it.
It was
That is
weird.
awesome.
Like, totally unprepared. You know, we stepped in, everything sort of just fell into place. Like, it was the only way I can describe it is supernatural. Like, the way that the team sort of worked together, everything meshed, and everybody sort of fell into place doing their roles that, you know, it's like there's this whole like leadership concept about, you know, putting complementary skill sets together. And with us, it just happened naturally. Like, it wasn't something that we sought out, but the more we work together, the more we find out that we're almost made to work together. It's really strange.
All the different strengths with each person really make a really awesome team. So one of the things that I knew that we were going to be working together for a long time is, you know, we get to Egg Fest and I'm like a nervous Nelly. I like to do things by the book and by the rules. And I'm like, do you think we're going to be able to like drink beer while we're here? You know, it's in the public. And Jeremy's like, who cares? He's like, go get some beer. We'll just stick it behind here. So I ran to Walmart before the whole thing started and got us a cooler full of beers, bought some little
she bought some freaking like the coffee mugs so we could hide the beers.
And I'm underneath the table cover, and I'm like trying to pour it, and Jeremy's like,
Jeremy's shotgunning behind the table there.
and Matt was like, I don't think it matters. Just go get them. So we got a bunch of beers. We were drinking. They had live band playing. We're slinging food, and you know, it was like you said, it was the first time I'd met Matt, first time I'd met Julie. And we all just boom made it happen, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it worked out great. And so then, like, we've just kind of kept on. Like, we did Eggfest 2018, we did Eggfest 2019, and we did Big Kahuna Wing Festival. And I would say each one different than the one before. Like, Eggfest 2018 and Eggfest 2019 were not the same event, but like, it's just we've made it happen. And I don't really know how to explain that other than, like I said, it's just like a supernatural thing.
Yeah. So 2018, we had a little tiny corner booth. 2019, we were front and center right next to Dr. Barbecue. And we taught a class.
Showing them how it's done.
That's right. But taught a class on tomahawks and stuff like that. So it was a good time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've been able to do like a few competitions, a few kind of events where, you know, it's like people's choice, and you know, you're cranking out food and, you know, that kind of thing. And like, the thing that I'll say is, you very, very quickly in situations like that, when the pressure's on, you find out who people are, like, almost immediately. And especially, I think, when it comes to cooking, there's always a lot of egos involved. You have to be really careful with like people's feelings, and, you know, you have a certain style of how you want to do things, and people do things a different style. And like, to come together like that and just immediately meld as a team, I mean, I think that's pretty huge. Like, I don't think that happens very often.
Joel and Stacey, you got to talk about the lime crema right here. Like, that's the perfect example of something that we tried, you gave critical feedback on, and egos weren't in the way.
Yeah, so when we were doing the 2019 Egg Fest, we were, you know, doing our pre-cooks and whatnot, and Matt, we were talking about doing a grilled skirt steak taco as one of our dishes, and Matt brought over a lime crema. Was it an aioli at the time, or was it a crema at the time?
It was a crema at the time.
Okay, because I know during the competition we called it everything. So,
But what it was.
We've joked about it ever since then. We don't really know what it was, but
A cremoli.
but you know, Matt,
It was good.
It was good. Matt brought it over. He was proud of it, but you know, as a whole, yeah, there's 4 of us here, and if we're going to be a successful cook team, we all got to say what we think about something, good or bad.
And you have to, and another thing that you'd have to take into consideration is, you know, like, somebody might like lime flavors. Somebody might really like cilantro flavors, but we have to really appeal to the masses when you're doing a people's choice.
So just like with us, me and Stacey, he was saying he likes lime flavors.
Oh,
So just like us with me and Stacey with making the seasonings, we're blessed because we complement each other in that. The same thing with our cook team. We're able to all of us taste something and with, no remorse, say exactly how we feel about the particular dish.
so we went through 5 different
versions of it,
Until
and we ended up coming with a jalapeno, lime.
How about
Drink you another
avocado-
topo.
avocado, jalapeno,
Lime, cremoli.
combination sauce for tacos. Like it's really good. It's really good. I would love for you to try it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So with the 4 of you now and kind of the format that you do your podcasts in and all of that, talk to me about like what the behind the scenes is like. Like, how do you plan out episodes? How do you come up with topics? Like, does everyone have an equal say? Like, how does that all work?
We just make Stacey do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So we all have these like behind the scenes roles. So after we won the first Egg Fest together, we had a group chat running up to that just for planning purposes. So that group chat it's called the Winners. And ever since then, we've just kept that going. So the Winners chat is where we plan all of the podcasts now. And Stacey is our resident showrunner. Despite not being introduced as that, she's the one who kind of comes up with the ideas and presents them to the group, and then we all sort of collaborate and figure out the best way to flesh those out together. Mm-hmm. So Stacey also puts together the outlines for all of our shows. So despite how unhinged and unorganized it might sound sometimes, like 99% of the time we have an outline that we're following, and what you hear is just like a conversational flow through that outline that's already been predefined.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then we have Jeremy does our captions for all of the episodes. We have Matt who does all of our editing and producing.
Joel literally does the least of anyone.
No, that is not true.
You're the pretty face of the podcast.
No,
yeah, thanks.
We all kind of have our roles in order to put an episode out every week, but we talk every single day on that group chat, and when things come up, we kind of present them and we nitpick them and edit them down and fine tune everything until we have what we want to execute.
Very cool.
Like I said, man, it's a beautiful storm. Just from the cooking team to the podcast, man, we all play a role, respect each other, love each other, but we don't pull any punches either.
Yeah,
we think it's dumb.
And I know
somebody's gonna say it.
And I know if I bring it up to these 3 guys, they think it's stupid. They tell me it's stupid.
In the sweetest way.
I know I'm getting. And that's what I want. When you're indecisive or you're back and forth on 2 different things, I want you to tell me. I want to know.
Well,
that's
I would tell you, like, on part 1 of this podcast, Stacey put a picture of the dishwasher with all the suds flowing out of it into the floor and was like, so this happened today, but it's probably too boring to talk about. And both Jeremy and I were like, absolutely not. We've got to talk about that.
Yeah. And like Matt and I have been wanting to do like a bread podcast for a long time, but Stacey falls asleep every time we talk about bread. Like we're just not, not doing it.
Hey, I dusted off my book, the flour, water, salt, yeast, and I'm ready to hammer that
so
out.
we take the starter and we heat it.
Yeah, super calm.
So okay, so I obviously want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially considering y'all are 3 hours ahead of me.
Considering Jeremy goes to sleep at 8 p.m. Eastern.
My bedtime was 3 hours ago. Yes.
I guess the last question I have before we do some quicker like rapid fire stuff, what's next? What's the plan for Reload? I mean, we talked about how like Fully Loaded came about and the fact that you've got 5 seasonings now that are out. What's the long-term plan for Reload? What's the plan for the podcast? Like, where do you guys see all this going?
I'll let you talk to the boss.
So for one, something that we've recently done in the last 6 months is we partnered with a nonprofit organization called Hungry Heroes. And so they serve first responders, police, fire, EMT, military, and now nurses. They go out there, they feed them, show appreciation and love. The main person that runs it is Amanda Riggin with Riggins Barbecue. So we donate a portion of our proceeds.
I have one of her shirts.
Do you? Yeah. So and you'll if you look at our bottles on the labels, you'll see that a portion of our proceeds, any sale of Reload, even the ones in retail stores, is donated to them to help keep them going. So we've got that going right now. Currently, we have 5 seasonings. We have some more things down the pipeline. Of course, we can't talk about that. As for us as a podcast, we had a plethora of things planned. We were supposed to go to a event in Louisville with Pit Barrel Cooker. That was canceled due to coronavirus. I'm sorry. It'll be rescheduled. Memphis in May we were scheduled to go to. We had a big cook in Chattanooga over at the Farah residence that we were supposed to have canceled. So as of right now, with all the circumstances in this world, it's so uncertain. We're just taking it day by day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody, that's all we can do, right? Kind of unprecedented times for sure. But so what I want to do to close things out, this might sound somewhat familiar, is end with some rapid fire questions. And I came up with
we didn't steal that from you or anything.
I came up with a few that I'd like to go around and have all 4 of you answer, and then I came up with some that are a little bit more specific. So the first one is that I ask everyone that comes on for roundtable for everyone. What is one tip that someone could implement today to be a better cook at home?
I think they need to buy some long tongs.
Good answer.
Somebody else.
Very, very creative.
Yeah.
So one tip that I would give is prepare yourself to screw up. If you want to be a better cook, you got to be prepared to feed some stuff to the dog, and that's it. Don't be afraid to try new things. Get in there, get your hands dirty, and the more you do it, the more you're going to know how to better yourself from it.
Yeah, that mindset, I think that's important. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say cook to temperature because that's what everyone says. But along the same line as Joel is saying, like the more you know, the more you can do. So do your research, find out what you're cooking. You know, if you want to cook something that you've never done before, Google it. You know, there's every bit of information you could possibly have. Like you mentioned in our last one, Noah, just about, YouTube. You know, there's so many great channels out there that you can find out literally anything you want to know about any type of meat or any type of vegetable. It's out there for you.
Yeah. Matt, Stacey?
Go ahead, Matt.
I felt like I already gave my answer. I don't know.
Tongs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, long tongs.
So I'm up. Mine would be don't be intimidated by ingredients or techniques that you see, whether you see it online, in videos. Something that I used to do in the past, if I saw a certain ingredient that I wasn't familiar with, skip to the next one until it was stuff that I was comfortable with. It's really not that hard. I mean, just like Jeremy said, just research it. Just don't be intimidated.
It's kind of
Attempt it.
Like big words like spatchcock.
Yeah, it's really easy. I mean, don't be intimidated when you see the name of something you've never heard of, because you can just go to the store typically and get it.
I'm not kidding. Years ago, if somebody had told me, "Hey, you ever spatchcock a chicken?" I would think they were like talking about something pornographic. You know, I mean, like,
Really.
I'm drawing right on the
In that alleyway, someone was like,
in that dark alley.
All right, this next one is for Jeremy. So for those that may or may not know, Jeremy, you're I don't know if it's your focus for 2020 or one of the things you're really into is French cooking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what drew you to want to perfect the craft of French cuisine specifically?
So growing up, if you're into food and stuff, like a lot of people have like shows they kind of like gravitate towards. Like Matt will talk about how he watched Alton Brown growing up and stuff. I watch Julia Child cooking up. Love her stuff, her traditional French cooking methods and stuff. And so that's kind of the method that I've gravitated towards my entire life, the one that I've kind of formed my cooking techniques around. Because in my opinion, that's where a lot of like the basics come from. You know, like there's a lot of terms in cooking that are French terms, and that's kind of the basis of stuff. So my opinion in cooking is that, you know, focus on the basics and then build from there, you know, to become a better chef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right on. Matt, I already asked you this on the first podcast, but I'm going to put you on the spot again here.
I'll just say long tongs again. So.
one tip to take better photos for Instagram.
Oh, man. Like the obvious answer here is lighting. Like get outside, get away from your crappy indoor halogen or fluorescent lights. Is that too obvious? Like, I think either get next to a window or get outside, and your pictures will be way, way, way better.
Okay.
That's way too obvious. We need a new answer.
Go spend thousands of dollars on camera equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's really the answer you're looking for, right? No, for real though. Like the camera that you've got is the best camera for the job. So my advice would be to just take pictures, take lots and lots of pictures, figure out what it is you like, figure out what it is you don't like, and do the things that you like and get better and better at it. Mm-hmm. There's no better advice I can give than to just take lots of pictures and figure it out.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, back to Joel and Stacey. What's one misconception people have about starting a rub company?
Heck, fire.
That it's easy and cheap.
Yeah, that is it. That is it.
It is.
Yeah, I think people think that this stuff you can just sling together and, you know.
We've had a lot of people or people on Instagram approach us about just needing help taking that line, and it was done for us, so we definitely would hold someone's hand and try to help with that, but that's definitely a misconception.
Yeah, starting any business is not cheap and it's not easy. If you got you're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're on call if you want to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's just entrepreneurship in general.
Yeah. Right on. I like that. All right, I've got two more for the group here, and then we'll wrap up. Favorite non-barbecue related food?
Is fried chicken considered non-barbecue?
So let me ask you this: in Tennessee, is it considered barbecue?
No,
it's cooked in a barbecue. It's cooked in a deep fryer.
That's what I know. I don't know everyone's opinion.
And I guess because I always hear of like Nashville fried chicken, right? Like that. Like when I think of fried chicken, that's what I think of. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm at like as a region. If you go to a barbecue spot, is fried chicken something you'd expect to be on the menu?
Yeah, I don't know.
If someone invited me to a barbecue and then they pulled out just a bucket of fried chicken, I'd be really confused.
Okay. All right.
I'll go with that. Yeah. No, fried chicken for me, for sure. I love good down-home food. I don't like to eat it all the time because, you know, frickin' my belly be even bigger than it already is. But, you know, I love good fried chicken.
Yeah.
I think I would say, did you say favorite?
Yeah, favorite non-barbecue food.
Gosh, I mean, there's just so many. Cliche would say tacos, but at the same time, you know, if we're going like really niche with things,
go
pimento cheese.
Yeah.
And specifically the pimento beer cheese. Freaking awesome.
Stacey is strangely addicted to hot sauce and any cheese product.
Yeah. Hot sauce.
Like together or just
together?
Separately? Okay.
Together. When she was pregnant with our first kid, her little craving she had was sitting on the damn couch with just slices of frickin' cheese and just dumping bottles of hot sauce on it. I mean, I don't know how she didn't burn our little baby up in that belly.
We're eating popcorn right now. Yeah, no, hot sauce. Hot sauce, hands down.
Yeah.
My favorite. And I know it's not like a food, but
you eat
it's
it.
A staple.
Yeah. Right on.
Jeremy?
Matt, Jeremy?
Me? I'll go.
Yeah.
So, the perfect flaky buttery French croissant.
Croissant.
Gosh. If my eyes rolled any harder, I'd be looking behind me.
But cliche like pizza. I eat pizza like 3 times a week. I love
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So my answer the first time I answered this was Southern food, and I got to stand by that. Like hoe cakes, pinto beans, fried chicken, like Joel said on our last podcast. Not part one of this, but the one before this, we talked about like even fried spam and beanie weenies and Vienna sausages. Like that's the stuff I grew up eating, and it'll always hold a special place in my heart. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen to that.
Cornbread.
From your grandma specifically, right? If I remember
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
A hoe
Coach,
cake
is grandma a
is a-
hoe? What's going on, bro?
So I would encourage anybody that doesn't know what a hoe cake is to go back and listen to my interview on the Cheeky BBQ Show. But just real briefly, it's basically a pancake made with cornbread batter.
Oh yeah. Okay. I listened to the whole thing. I just
She did. She did.
No, I just don't remember anything. I can't remember what I wore yesterday.
It was a while ago. Okay. And the last question that may sound somewhat familiar, but favorite piece of cooking equipment under $100, and it can't be a digital thermometer.
Long
That
times.
sounds really familiar.
Long times.
Oh, no.
Long time.
Shoot, man.
I'll go.
All right.
Something that I really appreciate having is a dome for when we're cooking on a flat top, or so that you
Oh,
can melt
yeah.
the cheese.
Okay.
A cloche.
A
called a
cloche.
It's called a cloche.
It's a metal ball. It's a metal ball.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have 2 different sizes, and I feel like that's really really pertinent to have.
It was. It was good. Somebody else go. I got to think.
That's,
All right, I got
that's
one.
a good one. That's a good one, Stacey. I like that.
Go, Jeremy.
Cast iron skillet.
Wait, what cast iron are you buying that's under $100?
Stargazer 10.5 inch is $90.
Okay.
And that is a machine smooth and pre-seasoned, extra long handle, so it doesn't get hot on you.
Mm.
We'll add for Stargazer there. If you guys want to sponsor the Cheeky BBQ podcast show,
See, if you spring for the Finex one, then you get the nice coil handle, so you don't have to have an extra long handle, and the coil doesn't get hot.
oh, is that
And-
under $100?
Absolutely not. You pay for what you get, baby.
And Finex is owned by Lodge, so you can get a Lodge skillet for under $100 for sure.
You can get one for under
That's true.
$20.
Yeah, it's like super cheap. So
Yeah.
mine, I think
But
I
Finex
was-
is based here in Portland, though. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Lodge is here in Tennessee,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So I think I fell victim to the Thermopin answer the first time we did this. So my updated answer would be like a Cambro shaker or a shaker of some sort. So Jeremy and I have both been blessed to work directly with the owners of Reload Rub. So on occasion, we'll get large quantities of rubs. So it's really, really handy to have a shaker to put those into to evenly coat the food.
Ain't nothing
Yeah.
like 10 pounds of double action.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's like the thing that I like about the Cambro ones are that you can get the different lids with the different size holes, right? So like
Yeah,
That's awesome.
when you're using like the Magnum, which is like a super coarse rub, you can get the shaker with the bigger holes on top, so it doesn't get all jammed up like it does
Exactly.
like it
Get
does
one
in
of
a
those
lot of
shakers.
shakers.
You
Cool.
need to get one.
Yeah, all right. I've been racking my brain, and all y'all had great answers. But I will say this: for me, one of my favorite things that I would say under $100 that anybody would need is just a good knife. You can get a really good blade. Which I like. People like to use butcher's knives and stuff, but I like to use kind of like scimitar knives or like quasi fillet blades with anything that I do. And you can get like really good, combo kits for under $100 that are super sharp. And, we all know a dull knife is a dangerous knife. So a good, nice, sharp knife. And you're welcome, world.
Joel,
like
I
it.
really thought you were gonna say Swiffer because you're so messy when you cook, like so you clean up
need a
around
maid.
yourself, like a
Need a
Swiffer.
maid?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, really quickly, just to close out, if you guys want to just go around and plug your social media handles and websites, of course, like where people can find more info and, connect with you individually. Let's start with Reload for sure.
Yeah, you can find, if you want to get the seasonings, you want to go check us out. You're on Instagram at ReloadRub. Website is www.reloadrub.com. You can find my beautiful wife on Instagram at @thatreloadwife and find me at @thatreloadlife.
Get it?
See what we did there?
I like it.
And then you can find our podcast on Instagram at That Reload Podcast.
Yep.
Got it. Jeremy, Matt?
Synergy.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy. You can find me at The Kitchen Whitelaw on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah,
The end.
the end. There's no one else to talk.
Yeah. So I'm no one else. You can follow me on Instagram at Farbecue, or I actually just started a YouTube channel. You can look me up. I'm Matt Farr on YouTube, or you can go find recipes on my website at farbecue.com. That's FARRBECUE.com.
And I have to encourage everybody to go check out Matt's YouTube. Some of the videos he's starting to drop they're fun to watch.
Next level.
The editing, everything, it's badass.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Pretty good.
He has a 17 camera setup where he records all around the kitchen. It's intense.
It's that dink life.
It's all in 3D. You guys have 3D goggles, virtual reality. It's augmented too, so you can do it in your own kitchen. It's something else.
They're all Sony as well, just to let you all know.
They are Sony, yeah, because
That's a given.
I know
All
how
right,
to buy
all right.
good cameras.
And
I don't
on
know
that
what's-
note, I just want to say to this crew, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come onto your podcast, to reach out, to request to collaborate. It's been great connecting with you guys. So an honor and a privilege. I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much
Thank you, bro.
for coming
Thanks for
on.
having us
Yeah.
on.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, make sure, like we said, hopefully in the beginning, you jumped over to That Reload podcast and caught part 1. This is part 2. Please connect with all 4 of these individuals. Buy the rubs. I have them here myself. They are incredibly good. And if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, make sure you go and do that. You can hear me taste packing heat live on the podcast. Which is pretty fun. It's a little spicy. And with that, thank you again, guys, so much. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.